to be worried about for now. But I can see why the safety concerns might be worth noting. All right, something else that's also drawn my attention over the last day or so. Actually, it's in the Citizen today. So there's a conversation in the Citizen, or an article around a conversation that's been had quite a bit around me in the offices as well. It says Gen Z's stress toolkit. And it's an article that details how Gen Zs, or what people colloquially call 2000, I think, how they deal with work stress. And I found it so interesting to see the pictures that have been used in this article. One of the pictures is an adult male with a pacifier in his mouth. And apparently that's one of the ways that people are resorting to, calming down. They're using calming pacifiers and blankets in the workplace. Something else that I saw that's interesting that I know many people do is chilling out in the loo. So going to sit in the toilet because you're having a difficult time at work, you're struggling, and you just need a break. Some people have digital stress relief, which is basically putting your phone aside. Or no, that's actually the detox, the digital detox. The digital stress relief is actually using your phone. So using your devices in order to have a bit of a time out. And then, of course, there's a digital detox where people then, remove their phones away from them in order to calm themselves down. But I'm interested in how you are approaching stress in the workplace. And have you seen any of the people around you? I don't think that these are limited to just the Gen Zs, hey? I don't think that these are just Gen Z mechanisms where people go and sit in the bathroom. I know from, friends in other places where they'll say that their colleagues go sit in the bathroom. In fact, I can think of someone who says they sit in the bathroom when they are a little overwhelmed with work, when they are struggling, when they're having a tough time, especially at this time of the year where you might be feeling like, why am I at work when everyone else is at home having a good time? And then you resort to some of these Gen Z stress toolkits, right? I suppose that's something to think about. I've been thinking, how do I de-stress? And I've realized I think what I do is I walk around the building. I think walking around the building is a big one for me. I'll walk around the building, maybe grab some coffee and just, breathe a bit, try to take a break from the desk, try to take a break from my laptop, and I'll go back to it once I've gathered up the strength and the courage, which is actually, I think, very similar to sitting in the bathroom the whole time. Although I don't think I would sit in the toilet to try and de-stress. But yeah, I want to hear from you. How are you de-stressing? And how have you seen some of your colleagues de-stressing when they're at work? 011-883-0702 is where you can give us a call. I'm looking at your WhatsApp. Someone here is saying, hi, Zo. Apart from security concerns, I think there are imperatives of justice and fairness to implicated individuals. Remember that some of them have not had a turn or opportunity to put their version before the commission, so it wouldn't be fair for the interim reports to be publicly released at this stage. Thank you so much for that, Tammy. That makes a lot of sense because we are still in part 2 of the process. And part 2, as I said, is where all the implicated individuals are responding to the allegations around them. And we have not completed part 2. So you're right, there might be some implicated individuals who are still going to have to respond, who are still going to have to make their side known. But I wonder, maybe then they should have just held off a bit on this interim report. I don't know. But it does make sense. You don't want to make findings and then you make them public against people who may still have more to say and have more to add. Thank you so much for that WhatsApp from Tammy. Chad in Johannesburg says, the cold tiles of the bathroom make the most relaxing spot in the summer. Okay, so you're one of those that sit in the bathroom. You sit in the bathroom, and where's this? Is this in the cubicle? Because if you're sitting in the cubicle, I think, Chad, there's some people that actually want to use the cubicle in the office, and you're there having a time out there. And if you're sitting in the open space, I think you get some looks. I'm sure you'd get some side eyes, Chad, from some people thinking, what are you doing in the bathroom at this time of the day? You should be at your desk working. But yeah, that's in response to how you are approaching timeouts in the workplace and how you are approaching cooling off in the workplace, especially when you are experiencing some stress. Some environments can be very, very high stress, and I suppose you need to find ways to de-stress, right? And find ways to kind of find a way to recenter before you approach your work. I suppose what I've also found to be helpful is having a bit of coffee. So walk into the coffee machine, have a coffee, and hope that there's someone there to have a chat with, have a conversation with. That helps me de-stress quite a bit. Kind of, forget a bit, about the stresses of what I'm doing before I get right back into it. But I think that it's important to find a way to cope in the office. I'm seeing in the Citizen article, there's even people sitting in that yoga position. I wonder where you would do that. What I really like about what I've seen in workplaces now is that there's those wellness places around buildings. A lot of the modern buildings have places where you would, almost like a doctor's office. I know the Prime Media building now has something similar to a doctor's office. And I'd imagine that's one of the places where you would want to go and relax and kind of recenter. And maybe you can sit in the yoga position. But the one that really caught me off guard was the pacifier. I mean, having a pacifier, or what people would call itami, in the workplace, and that helps you de-stress. That's very interesting for me. It says pacifiers, blankets, and plushies. The trend started in China and has spread across the Gen Z world. So according to this article, it's particularly the Gen Zs that are using pacifiers. It's the Gen Zs that are using their blankets, and they're using these as tools in the workplace. Another view that I've heard from people that work with Gen Zs, we here actually have a lot of Gen Zs that we're working with, but I haven't experienced what some people have spoken about quite a bit. The fact that Gen Zs will often prioritize their mental health more than the older generation. So the older people will still come to work even though they're not okay, whether it's physically unwell, whether it's people that are emotionally unwell, you're going through a breakup, or you're just not yourself, you're not feeling good, they'd still come to work, right? And it's from that generation of you must go to work, you'll hear some parents saying. But the Gen Zs apparently, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but the Gen Zs apparently will say, no, I'm not coming, I'm not feeling good, I'm emotionally unwell, and I should be allowed to just stay at home. And they truly won't come because they are unwell. And I know there's a view that says that's good because they're taking care of their emotional wellness. But I suppose the other view is, where do we draw the line? Because every time we were all emotional and not having a good day and we didn't come to work, would we be very productive? I don't know. Natasha, I see your WhatsApp. You say, I learned skills in stress management, and of that is known. I have a lot of persistence, and I communicate when I need a break. Mostly known habits is like when I drink my coffee at break, when it's time out. I actually love to play with the 3-year-olds in the sand at the preschool. Often the kids will say to other people, teacher is not going to help you now. She wants to, then I breathe slowly, bring my heart rate to slow down. I do yoga now for 13 years. Natasha, thank you so much for that WhatsApp. Yeah. It's important to have those skills management techniques. And actually being in the sand is a good one. So the fact that you work near kids or with kids and you can be in the sand with them is absolutely lovely. But also being able to recognize when you do need a timeout is important. Because sometimes you can sit there stressed and you're struggling and you just sit there and you continue to push, and that's not okay. So being able to recognize, being able to see that I do need time. Also, the fact that we have break at work, so the fact that we've got lunch, a lunch hour designated or allocated, and the fact that we've got, some people will even have tea time. I know in some industries, there'll be tea time where you must take tea and then go back to work. In fact, in the courts, that's a good example, where they will have tea time. Each courtroom will have between 11:15 and 11:30. You'll see them standing up going for tea. And I know people will say, oh, why are they taking so many breaks? But I suppose you're dealing with a lot. And some of the evidence that could be heard in court can be very, very stressful and cause a strain on you. So you do need that tea break. And so I think the tea break is more for the judges and the magistrates than it is for for us, but that happens quite a bit. And then they'll also go and have some lunch. But what are some of the ways that you deal with your stress at work? 011-883-0702 is the number to dial.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
All right, we are taking your calls and we are taking your WhatsApps. I suppose also when it comes to that Mazanga Commission conversation, I think it's a good thing that we're at a place right now at the Mazanga Commission where things do seem like they are moving. They are, we are on track. But also I'm now looking forward to part 3 of the commission because we're in part 2, and part 2 is when there's the response, right, from all those who are implicated. These include the likes of a Julius Mkhwanazi, who we've seen, that's the suspended deputy chief of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. And then we've seen the former municipal manager, Dr. Imogen Mashazi, and there'll be more, right? Also, so Vusmuzi Kat Matala, also all in part 2, testifying there. But soon we're going to be moving to part 3. And part 3 is when there's going to be a lot more reaction or the response from Mkhwanazi. That's General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I always find when it comes to Mazanga Commission, you must be careful. You must say full name and surnames because we've got 2 Mkhwanazis, right? So General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is going to have to come back in part 3 and answer to what a Julius Mkhwanazi has already said. They'll have to answer to what an Imogen Mashazi has already said. They'll have to reply and, almost, clarify the questions that have been asked. And while I've been listening to the Mazanga Commission, I've been wondering, is there a lot for Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi to reply to, really? Is there a lot to clarify? And that really just depends on your view of what has been said by those who are implicated. You look at a testimony by a Julius Mkhwanazi, right, who's basically come out to say that it's not true. It has been denied. He says it's not true that he is, implicated or he even knew about this blue light scandal, right? He's basically distanced himself from Vusmuzi Kat Matala. And you wonder then that when General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi comes back, what would his response be? So we are going to be seeing General Mkhwanazi come back. We're also going to be seeing others who have been corroborating what General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has been saying also come back to testify, also come back to respond to any of the allegations around them. You may know that there have been allegations made, for example, Kilebogile Tipa, who's the former spokesperson of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. She's had allegations now made against her by an Imogen Mashazi, right, the former municipal manager, basically saying that she was in a romantic relationship with her senior. Now she has to come back and respond to those allegations. So we still have a lot, hey? We still isende lendlela esizoyihamba, right? Yinde, right? And I think we're all trying to see as the commission takes its shape, what can we expect now going forward? So I am looking forward to the responses that will come. But also, when the commission returns next year, we know that we continue with part 2. And that part, in part 2, is when we're still going to hear more. I'm actually wondering if we're going to be hearing from Katiso K.T. Molefe at all, if they would want a Katiso K.T. Molefe to come and account. But we'll certainly have more on that as the new year begins. Tsepo says, as Khomotso, I prefer field work. Like police officers and municipality workers, you can at any given time and also attend to your private matters. No supervision, you supervise yourself at the field. Love your topic, Ceci. Thank you so much, Tsepo. Tsepo, I understand, ne? I understand the being out and about, especially as a reporter myself. You are out and about. But you must be careful, hey, not to use company time to do your own things because you will be caught, my brother. You will be caught and it won't be cute. But yes, I do understand the idea of being out and about. You are able to manage your time. Maybe people prefer to be out and about and to do field work because, you're able to, you're quote unquote your own boss, right? You're in charge of your own time. You're able to do things as you want to do them and at the time that you see fit, as opposed to being in the office. And some people feel like when they're in the office, they're being watched like a hawk, right? But I do think you must be careful. Don't do your short lefts there and do your other things with the work car or with on work time. We are speaking about how you de-stress while you're at work, right? It's an article. It's from an article by The Citizen, and it says the Gen Z's stress toolkit. How do you de-stress? Some of them use a pacifier, apparently. I don't know if you've seen anyone use a pacifier. I've never seen a person use a pacifier before in the workplace. It would be very, very odd. But there are some ones that are interesting here that I've seen and heard before. People chilling in the loo, they call it. So sitting in the bathroom while they try and de-stress and almost pull themselves towards themselves. Right, let's take a voice note.
What I do to de-stress in the office, because I'm in an office, I'm in my own office. I'm not in an open plan or anything like it, but the pressure does really come down really hard on me when it comes. And what I do is I put on my earpods. I close the door. I put on my earpods and I play hip hop music to the absolute loudest. I will have Drake in my ears, so loud. And I don't know if it helps me sort of, because I know the lyrics to all the songs. When I am singing the song out, it feels like I am taking my frustrations and my stress out in the midst of rapping to every song and singing. And literally it only takes about 3 songs. After those 3 songs, I open the door and I am myself again. I don't know. It's like magic. Music heals anything. It's Lerato here from Springs. Thank you.
Yes, it is magic, Lerato. It's magic because, let me tell you, I agree. I can confirm what you're saying. I have experienced that too, where you just sit with the music and you just feel the stress leaving your body. I think you're lucky that you sit in an actual office in a cubicle. I think workspaces now are more, the communal workspace, and it's tougher then. There's people walking around, and some people might want to catch your attention. But you're right. Music is the answer to it all. It fixes so much, even for me. And once you listen to that Drake song, then you're able to get back into it and you do feel a whole lot better. Actually, that's really, really good advice there from Lerato.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, we're going to be taking more of your voice notes right here on the Clement Manyathela Show. I do see some of them coming in. We're speaking about how do you de-stress in the workplace. And there's been interesting ones that I've seen and that I've read. Some people really speaking about how they want to sit on the tile, on a cold tile. I can also imagine the lying down on a cold tile may also help you a lot. That coffee break is always welcome. Coffee, maybe tea if you're a tea person. And walking around the building. I do that a lot. In fact, I think some of my colleagues now hearing that or hearing this will realize that I walk around the building a lot. And that's really when I'm struggling or when I'm very, very stressed. I find that when you're sitting just staring at your screen, really it feels like, this is the end all be all. And if you're staring at a problem here and you're not finding the solution, it can be really, really heavy. So sitting down in, or walking around in the building, getting a bit of a coffee, hoping to bump into someone, have a bit of a chat, talking to someone. I do that a lot and I enjoy it. And I think that it helps a lot. Amogelang Ramela is in the studio. Amu, how do you de-stress around the building and at work? When you're struggling, Nje, what's your go-to thing to de-stress?
I go to people. There's Scooby. She makes me laugh all the time. Balisa makes me laugh. So I go to her desk if she's around and I just talk about random things and you'll literally laugh. And then I go to Sfiso's desk as well.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of people and talk. I like talking. And
we know.
The one thing is that then I'll be talking and they are really trying to focus and then it's going to be an issue because I'm trying to finish up here. But yeah, I just talk.
Yeah, I agree. I talk too. I think, coming around to people's desks helps a lot. But also there are those anchor people, in our workplaces where that when I go to this person, I'm going to get, that boost of energy.
Yes.
Yeah? Where when you see that person, if I go and I just speak to them.
And it matters not what you talk about.
Yeah. It's just banter.
Yeah.
Office banter. But it helps you get through the day. All right. That is the first hour of the Clement Manyathela Show done. Thank you so much for your calls and your voice notes. It is 10 o'clock. Let's take Eyewitness News.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The MK party in KwaZulu-Natal has officially introduced its motion of no confidence against Premier Mazanga Ntuli in the legislature. The party has accused Ntuli and the government of provincial unity of financial mismanagement and failure to deliver services. Ntuli was elected Premier after the IFP, ANC, DA and NFP in the province formed a coalition agreement following last year's general elections. Mgadi says the province is under the current administration failing.
I hereby move a motion of no confidence in Premier Honorable T.A. Ntuli. This is not a gesture of conscience, but of responsibility. It is not about humiliating one man, but about rescuing the entire province.
Staying in KwaZulu-Natal, Finance MEC Francois Rogers says he's working on a long-term plan to make the Zulu royal family financially self-sustainable and less reliant on provincial government funding. Each year, the provincial government allocates millions of rands to the monarchy. In the previous financial year, Rogers signed off an 86 million rand check to the palace. And in an interview with EWN, Rogers says that the province needs to rethink how it supports the Zulu royal family. Tabiso Goba reports.
Finance MEC Francois Rogers says one option is to emulate Botswana's meat commission model in KwaZulu-Natal. In 1965, Botswana's government established the BMC in a move to promote the country's beef and related products across the world. The BMC, which still exists today, played a significant role in Botswana's early economic development years. Rogers says the KZN government can also assist the Zulu royal family in leveraging its vast land and cattle to create something similar.
I've now found investors who are prepared to come in to form a joint venture with the royal household to look at a beef canning plant to export canned beef up into Central Africa, where there's a huge demand for it. And we've done some preliminary numbers and studies on this model. The King is really interested in it.
Rogers says other strategies include the commercialization of the Zulu royal family's rich history and heritage as a tourist attraction. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
2 suspects have been killed during a shootout with police in the Free State. Gauteng officers and private security guards caught the pair in Parys last night. The suspects were dressed in police uniform and guns and blue lights were also found in their possession. Police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuli.
It is reported that a team of various police units in Gauteng, including your TRT, Traffic Airway, Detectives Checking Team and Head Office Counterintelligence, together with private security companies, operationalized intelligence information about a VW Golf 7 vehicle involved in blue light robberies. The team strategically placed themselves and the vehicle was spotted driving on the R59 road fitted with blue lights.
And flash flooding caused by sudden heavy rain has killed at least 21 people in the Moroccan coastal town of Safi. Images on social media showed a torrent of muddy water sweeping cars and rubbish bins from the streets in Safi, which sits around 300 kilometers south of the capital Rabat. Severe weather and flooding are not uncommon in Morocco, which is struggling with a severe drought for the 7th consecutive year. Gold is trading at $4,341.74 an ounce. The rand is at 16.84 to the dollar, 22.51 to the pound, 19.76 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $61.41 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident heading towards China Mall. It's on Main Reef Road. It's right near Production Road, causing heavy delays. And speaking of China Mall, as well as surrounds Amalgam, Mayfair, traffic is heavily backed up on several routes within the area. Routes affected include Crownwood Road, Main Reef Road, as well as Press Avenue, and even the M2 West between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 26 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The MK party in KwaZulu-Natal has officially introduced its motion of no confidence against Premier Mazanga Ntuli in the legislature.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
10:05 on the Clement Manyathela Show. Welcome back. This is the Clement Manyathela Show with me, Khomotso Modise. I'm in for Clem this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in right here on 702. It's the second hour of the show. And in this hour, we're going to be taking a look at some of our top stories that have been making headlines over the weekend. Of course, the news cycle does seem to be slowing down a bit, but there have been events that have been happening over the last couple of days that we're going to be taking a look at. And we're going to be starting in just a bit with another RAF dodgy call center deal that's been exposed. This is in the Sunday Times, and it's an interesting article that I read there, really detailing how the RAF basically let go of an internal call center that they were running that cost them about 25 million rand a year, and they opted for one that costs them like 9 times that, 10 times that, 199 million rand. So we're going to be having that conversation with the Sunday Times investigative reporter Sabelo Skiti, who's going to be talking us through that investigation that he's done on the RAF. And the RAF is really such a difficult, organization to cover because of what just keeps unraveling. Currently, the spotlight is on the RAF, particularly in Parliament, with Parliament's Standing Committee of Public Accounts really calling for the former CEO, Colin Setswalo, to come in account. But also, they keep unraveling all these really insane spending habits and the what's been happening inside there. And for an organization under Colin Setswalo that purported to be doing certain things to try and stop the spending, they were saying, there was issues around the lawyers saying that they're stopping corruption in the RAF, but it doesn't seem to be that way. We just keep seeing all these things that speak to more corruption in the RAF. So we'll be speaking to Sabelo Skiti on that in a bit. And then a little later on in the show, the second story that we'll be taking a look at is that story around the Communications Committee, Parliament's Communications Committee responding to the paper or the gazette that was published by the Communications and Digital Technologies Minister, Solly Malatsi, and that is around basically bypassing BEE laws in order to allow companies like Starlink to operate in the country. Parliament is very unhappy about that, and Kusela Diko, who's the chairperson, will be coming on to speak. Political parties have also responded to that. Malatsi, however, insists that he's just trying to marry the regulation that's currently there, marry the regulation that's currently there and BEE laws, but also to try and, open up this space to allow international players more access to operate here. Of course, the international player that we all have our eyes on is that Starlink by Elon Musk. So we'll have that conversation with Kusela Diko a little later on in the show. That is the next hour right here on the Clement Manyathela Show. If you want to get in touch with us, it's 011-883-0702. That's if you want to give us a call. If you'd rather send us a WhatsApp, it's 072-702-1702.
For more about 702,
Go to primemediaplus.com.
So a major investigation report from the Sunday Times by Sabelo Skiti alleges that the Road Accident Fund spent tens of millions more than necessary on a call center contract and did so outside of normal procurement processes. And this is a call center that used to cost about 25 million rand a year, and they decided to spend 199 million rand over 13 months. Sabelo Skiti, the investigative reporter at the Sunday Times, who's been running this story, joins us now on the show. Sabelo, good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Komoto, and thank you for having me.
Maybe let's just start with the genesis of this investigation, because this is part of wider work or wider body of work that's being done around the RAF. But how did the investigation, particularly into the call center, begin?
Yeah. So my colleague and I, Utan Kolojika, in fact, he's done the bulk of the investigations into what has been happening at the RAF. And I think because of, the sort of interest that we as a newspaper and the publication had taken, because we basically wanted to unravel and look and see what it is that, has been happening at the RAF. You'd remember that this for us starts at the point where Colin Setswalo, as CEO of the RAF, gets into a tiff with the Auditor General. And the tiff he refuses to back down on, this is now a couple of years ago, he refuses to back down from this tiff. It involves the ministers at some point because he doesn't want to be audited in the normal way that, the normal accounting standards that not even South Africa but the world prefers. He wants to, be audited in a different way. And of course, we now know through the Scopa hearings that was all a way to mask what I would call incredible looting and malfeasance at the RAF. Now that Scopa is beginning to unravel, some experts are talking about a deficit or a liability that has gone up to R500 million. And remember, the RAF is a contingent liability for the state in return. So it means that if the RAF can't put up that 500 billion rand that it's required to pay out in terms of these claims, it means that the state must come in. So that's where we started looking into it. And I think as we were going, we're beginning to find more and more out. And I think for me, this was particularly interesting because, again, this is a situation where we've seen all too often in South Africa. A CEO comes into an organization, everything is functioning well. He then sees a need to start tinkering with things that don't need tinkering, at least according to what has been reported in the annual financials before and what people are saying internally. You find a call center that's operating at about 90 or so % resolution rate, which is actually quite good. I mean, even if you speak to corporate companies, if they can have that sort of resolution rate through one of their communication channels, it's amazing. Then you start tinkering with it, right? And then in the end, you find a situation where now the cost of this entire thing have grown tremendously, almost tenfold. In fact, when they do after that 190 million rand 13-month contract, the next contract was, the extension was in the region of about 300 million, So it comes at a great cost to the RAF. The people that are inside, of course, are saying that it's impossible for anyone to make a determination whether there has been an improvement or not from when this thing was operated internally to when they have an external service provider.
And what happened in this particular instance? So how was this call center operating? I mean, it does seem that they were spending a lot less on it. Was it getting the job done?
Yeah, look, so that I think for me was one of the key things that I needed to determine, and it needed to be quite an independent thing. So I then went back to previous annual financial statements that the RAF had been putting out. And one of the things that, sort of helped convince me that I can rely on the information is that not only did the RAF do its own sort of, quality assurance on the operations of the call center, but they also had an independent, person come in and actually do the checking themselves. And as a result of that, that call center, yes, at the time that Collins Letwalo comes into RAF, it had experienced a bit of a decline from, like I said, a resolution rate of about 93, 94%. This was in 2018, 2019. To about late 80s at the time that Collins comes in. So, it was performing adequately. And I think one of the key things around the difference now and then, a lot of the people that we've spoken to are saying is that the people that manned it before were people that were familiar. They were employees, RAF employees. So they were familiar with, how things work. And they could actually advise people who call into the call center adequately because they knew, where things were. And I suppose the only thing that you needed there, and they also admit this, is that there wasn't a technological integration, in how the system worked. So the only thing that they had wanted, I think the guy who ran the call center at the time had wanted to do was to say, I now want a thing where if I get a reference number, I can in real time open up and tell a person exactly where, the claim is. If someone has picked it up today, I can tell them that it's now been opened by a specific person, and in terms of the process, this is what must happen next. So they had something that was similar to that, but was not real time because it wasn't integrated into, and also I think the documents were not properly digitized for you to be able to do that. But this is something that the RAF could have done internally. In fact, that manager wanted to do it internally, but his suggestion was not approved by the EXCO, and instead they chose this very expensive way.
And from your investigation, how did you verify? Because you claim that procurement practices were flouted, right? So there was no competitive bidding. How did you verify this? How did you confirm that?
Yeah. So I think as a part of this, we basically got a hold of some internal documents that gave us an idea of what sort of process was followed. So I'll talk you through a couple of those just now. So the first one is essentially a letter that had been written by Letsoalo in his capacity as accounting officer at RAF. This was in November 2022. He writes this letter to the DG at the time in the Department of Labor, Utobile Lamati, basically saying, to them that they had begun a process of wanting to do a customer relation management, contract, and they saw that the one that had been concluded between this company, Alteram, and the Department of Labor, was the one that they had preferred, right? And they then needed permission to participate in that contract in terms of Treasury regulations. Now, Regulation 16.6A of Treasury regulations allows for a government department to sort of piggyback in a way on an existing state contract in order to avoid going out on the traditional, tendering system, issuing out an RFP and all of those things. This normally just allows for a bit of more efficiency in terms of getting the product, or service. But now Treasury always insists that if you are going to do that, then all the conditions must be the same. So if there's a year remaining on that contract, it means you can only participate only for the space of a year, and you can't change the amount, and you can't change any condition of that contract.
Yeah.
It's simply like a plug and play situation. So that's what they did. But then what I found quite interesting is that internally at RAF, there doesn't seem to have been any process that preceded this letter being written. In fact, when we look at the documents that we have, it looks like the procurement process at RAF only begins the following year, where you then get a department inside Letsoalo's office recommending to Letsoalo and writing a proposal with a business case that says that we think that we ought to revamp the call center. We need to bring in external expertise. We need to get a CRM. That's what they do. But if you look at the paperwork, the decision had already been taken. So it gives one an idea that they were actually doing what they were doing in January and Feb 2023 to try and mask the fact that and try and build a sort of process around, this process to give it an air of credibility. But they had already long taken that decision. And of course, what's critical for us as well is that in terms of RAF's own policies, that decision was a decision that ought to have been taken by the bid adjudicating committee and then escalated to the CEO for final approval. But in this case, even that process begins in the CEO's office and then goes back to the BAC and then goes back up to the CEO and to the board, which is very, very, very unusual. And I mean, to the point that when we started putting questions to the Road Accident Fund, they couldn't answer us adequately and referred us to some of the executives that were involved in the decision making. This includes the likes of Letsoalo, the CFO, Bernice Potgieter, the head of office in Letsoalo's office, Manyatela. Those were the people that were actively giving the approvals and doing the recommendation documents. And for some reason, it seems that none of these documents that underpin the need for this service can be found inside RAF. Those things are always red flags to sort of tell you that perhaps not everything is kosher about this deal.
All right, we're taking your calls on 011-883-0702 if you'd like to join the conversation. We're speaking about the Road Accident Fund and really what seems to be more shenanigans happening there. It's part of a greater body of work that's been done on the Road Accident Fund by the Sunday Times and other media houses, just as we've been seeing the details of what seems to be corruption and malfeasance unfolding before Parliament. We're also taking your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. My guest is Sabelo Skiti, investigative reporter at Sunday Times. Sabelo, so how does this fit into the greater story of the RAF, the greater body of work? Because as you correctly say, this does point to some sort of malfeasance. And I think we're at the point now where we were thinking, how deep does the rot go at the RAF?
Yeah. So I think, Khumucho, that's partly, the first part of it for us is to sort of get an understanding of, just how deep does the rot go, right? Secondly, it also wishes to answer because, remember when Collins gets there, he gets there to a lot of fanfare, and almost immediately he starts this thing of making very political statements around, they need to overhaul how RAF works. At the time, RAF had just instituted a very successful program of saying that, if you need to claim from the RAF, you don't need to always use lawyers. You can just come to us.
Yes.
We've got the experts and stuff, we can actually process your claim. It will work much faster. So he stops things like that. He starts making claims about, cartels of lawyers that are milking the road accident fund. He targets the medical aids. He almost looks like someone who wants to do a major overhaul and transform RAF into like this super efficient, entity. But then, of course, what we are now beginning to see is that he was sort of laying the groundwork for all of this malfeasance that we've seen. I said before, RAF liabilities have grown to about 500 billion rand. And this is by far the largest sort of risk to government, to the fiscus, basically. If you consider when Eskom was considered a problem, their debt was sitting in the region of about 400 billion rand. At that time, I believe RAF was sitting at about 180 or so, So RAF was one of the problematic institutions in that sense, but not really the institution. And I mean, if this 500 billion rand figure is confirmed, it will essentially take RAF right to the top of, the contingent liability that government has, which presents a real risk. So it's important for us to unearth. And again, for me, I think for holding people accountable, right?
Yeah.
So RAF is one of those institutions that if you don't watch closely, you can wake up to a problem such as the one that we have. So the way that they get allocated their funds come from the fuel levy. So every day you and I buy fuel at the gas station, a certain portion of that money gets allocated to the road accident fund, and for the fund to do what it does, basically ensure each and every one of us on the public roads, right? So that if there's anything that happens in terms of an accident, you can claim for medical expenses, you can claim for compensation, you can claim for loss of income in the case of your kids, should a person lose their life. So it's a very important institution, but it's an institution that, because of the nature of how the money comes in, it becomes very difficult for you to see whether there's waste and whether the institution is in trouble up until the burden gets too much. And I think this is probably where we are sitting now. We are sitting at a situation where, part of what I think Scopa will have to do is to look at whether RAF is still viable, as an insurance in its current form, or what else can actually happen. And those things are as a direct result of, allowing this sort of malfeasance to happen. We've seen this thing happen with some pension funds where they've been unable to actually honor what is due to the people when it becomes due to them, because over the years people have not been watching what has been happening there, and there's been great misuse and there's been great wastage and corruption.
Yeah. And I suppose now it's the what happens, right? I know that there's been suspensions that have been happening at the RAF. None of them seem to be directly linked to the malfeasance. Just clarify that. People are being suspended, but not necessarily linking them to what's happening there internally at the RAF.
Yeah, so I think, looking at it, so I think it's a matter of, you've got this interim board. They are there for a short time, led by the former Chief Procurement Officer, Kenneth Brown. That now has to come in and sort of, at the same time as SCOPA is doing what it's doing, they've got to stabilize, the organization, make sure that they start then processes that would lead to a proper unraveling of what has actually happened inside there. And I suppose part of what we know as well from people that are internal at RAF is that the system that Collins had built was one that was built around intimidation, built around, people being punished if they stand up against what they perceive to be the wrong things. And I'm supposing that that's what they've come across now, is that with the presence of the executives there, probably people were still scared. So I think a lot of what that has to do with, of course, I understand that the board did find some malfeasance that they're looking into. But the important thing is that you also want to create an environment where people feel free from intimidation. People no longer feel scared. And the only way for you to do that is to then start that accountability. I think it's going to be interesting in the next couple of months what happens around how things get uncovered. And if there are indeed forensic investigations, we'll begin to see who was doing what, where, with who, and how. And I think that'll give us a bit of a better idea. And something that I also found quite interesting in the approach this time around from the interim board there is that they've also started referring some of these things to law enforcement agency for criminal investigation.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the times you'll find that organizations, new leadership comes in, they do forensic investigations. The forensic investigations find what they find, or they do become limited in terms of accessing, particularly when it comes to the gratification side of things. Because for you to be able to get access to, banking accounts of, executives and that sort of thing, it requires a bit more than just what you can do as, most, companies that do forensic investigations. Normally that just looks at the process and it's like a look at the paper and stuff like that. So I think what is interesting here is the fact that now they've brought in law enforcement. Of course, we do know that law enforcement will be able to go to banks and access bank accounts. They'll be able to access people's devices. And of course, the end result of a law investigative, investigation is that then people are charged, which I think you and I will agree, and a lot of South Africans, is that something that happens far too less in these sort of situations.
Yeah. And what has the RAF been saying to your inquiries? I mean, are they commenting on this? What has their official comment been?
Yeah. So they did comment, I think, on the story in general, and I think they did try and provide us with as much information as they could. But what again stood out for me in this instance is that to some of the questions that we'd asked, they simply didn't know. Because once these executives are not there, there doesn't seem to be any paper trail or any paper that shows that this is the process that underpinned a certain event or whatever. It's something that's very, very worrying. And I suppose it's also something for the RAF to then start considering and looking at whether then not to sort of extend charges against these individuals if there is no paper trail for some of their time, being executives there.
All right, Sabelo Skiti, investigative reporter at the Sunday Times. They're helping us make sense of the latest in the RAF saga. Really, I mean, there's just so much happening with the Road Accident Fund, and all the corruption just keeps on unraveling before Parliament, but also we're so grateful for the investigations that are happening in the newsrooms as well. People that are combing through the annual financial statements, people that are asking the right questions. And here we see another one of these dodgy deals, what seems to be a very dodgy deal to me. They're being exposed in the Sunday Times. Imagine having a call center that works, 225 million rand a year, and it works, and you find a reason, because you must find a reason to balloon that amount to 199 million rand, and you think that's okay. Yep. Right, it's time for our news headlines. Fiso Zulu standing by.
Thanks, Khomotso. Good morning. The MK party in KwaZulu-Natal has officially introduced its motion of no confidence against Premier Thamsanqa Ntuli in the legislature. The party has accused Ntuli and the government of provincial unity of financial mismanagement and failure to deliver services. Ntuli was elected premier after the IFP, ANC, DA and NFP formed a coalition arrangement following last year's general elections. Motorists are being warned against driving under the influence this festive season. Traffic volumes are expected to increase in the next few days as people travel across the country ahead of the Christmas day next week. An off-duty law enforcement officer in Cape Town died yesterday after he was struck by a drunk driver while attending to another crash. And at least 16 high school students celebrating their graduation and a driver have been killed in a bus accident in Colombia. The bus plunged into a ravine in the northwest of the country yesterday. The group of students aged between 16 and 18 were traveling from a Caribbean beach on Colombia's coast. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling in Modderfontein, we've got an accident reported along Modderfontein Road right on the N3 South. It is causing heavy traffic volumes, especially if you're leaving areas like Kelvin. Please be on the lookout there. While on the N3 North, we still have got a slight backup towards the Giluli's interchange, and there's also queuing traffic on the R24 West between the N12 merge and the Giluli's interchange. And if you are traveling in the Amalgam, Main Reef, as well as China Mall areas, do expect heavy traffic volumes along the M2 West towards the Main Reef Road exit. Main Reef Road in itself is backed up towards Crownwood Road along with Production Road. Traffic within those areas is heavily backed up, so please try to avoid and approach with care. And then in the city of Tshwane, we've got an accident reported on the N1 North. It's right after Rigel Avenue. It is causing a bit of problems along that route, so please be on the lookout there and drive with care. And traffic lights are still out of order at the M1 North and Corlett Drive. That's in Melrose. They're also out of order in Sandton at Main and Witgoppen Road, as well as in Sunninghill at Rivonia Road and Witgoppen Road. Please be on the lookout and approach with care. More updates at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Hollywood Bets invites you to drop into summer magic. Play the Spinners or get prize drops and you could win a share of 5 million rand. Simply bet 2 rand or more on selected pragmatic play slots, 10 rand or more on crash, or 100 rand or more on live tables, Mondays, Tuesdays and Thursdays to enter. Prepare to spin big, make a splash and fall into summer wins. Hollywood Bets, it's more fun to spin with us. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
Hi, I'm Komodo, PG Glass Technician. At PG Glass, we keep your windscreen chip-free and crystal clear.
Choose PG Glass, quality you can trust. Visit pg.co.za.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
On the next Money Show, we kick things off with the agricultural economist, Wandile Sehlobo. South Africa's wine grape industry heads into 2026 with a lot of optimism. Then as festive plans take shape, we unpack the insurance risks of holiday home swaps, Airbnb hosting, and car loans with Ernest North. But after that, we explore the art of culinary success with our How I Make My Money guest, Peter Templehoff, the award-winning chef. And as always, expert analysis of the day's biggest business news.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB, accelerating infrastructure-led growth and economic resilience through the South African National Treasury's 11.8 billion rand infrastructure and development finance bond. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Welcome back. This is the Clement Manyathela Show right here on 702. My name is Khomotso Modise. I'm in for Clement. It's 10:36 right here on 702. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for your comments and your calls. All right, we're moving to a story that has been making headlines over the last last day or so. But also, we heard in the breakfast show also a conversation on that around those directives, or a directive that was issued by the Minister of Communication, Soli Malatsi. It's a policy direction that basically relaxes ownership rules for foreign telecommunications companies like Elon Musk's Starlink. Now, there's been a lot of response to this, a lot of reaction. I've seen the ANC reacting to this. They've issued an entire statement, and they basically saying that these directions exceed the minister's legislative authority. They undermine South Africa's transformation framework, and they threaten the integrity of our ICT and postal regulatory environment. There's also been a similar sentiment that's been shared by the EFF as well. So political parties not happy about this. Of course, this has been a long time coming. We've been seeing the Minister Soli Malatsi making these moves towards this point, and the directive that was issued, I believe it was on Friday, has sparked fresh conversation. But someone here to help us make sense of Parliament's response to this, as well as what this means for Parliament's Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, is the committee's chairperson, that is Kusela Tiko, who joins us now on the line. Kusela, good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Khomotso. Let me greet your listeners, and thank you so much for inviting us onto the program.
Sure. Can you just, first let's just deal with what the minister has been saying around the direction that he issued, because he has been asked quite a bit about it. I've been seeing interviews that he's been doing over the weekend, and he says he's merely trying to harmonize the regulations with the BEE rules. And he says he's just trying to create an environment that allows international players easier access into the country, and that is great for us as a country. But of course, this is something that you reject.
Yes, not only do we reject it, Khomotso, but we've asked that those directives are withdrawn with immediate effect. Now, this is because the minister is acting contrary to the law. He has no powers whatsoever to amend legislation, especially by doing so through stealth, as we think is in this case. He has said, or taking from what you've just reported now, he has said that he wants to harmonize laws. Now, he can only exercise powers that are given to him by legislation. If he believes that there's a disjuncture between two laws, he's supposed to approach the courts for a declaratory order where he thinks that there's confusion in terms of the laws. Alternatively, if he wants to amend the law, he must approach Parliament to make those changes to regulation. So we think that, as I said, he's overreaching, and in doing so, he's also threatening the independence of the regulator, ICASA, by giving them what is essentially an unlawful instruction.
Yeah. And which specific sections, Kusela, do you believe are being flouted by the minister? These are sections of the Electronic Communications Act.
Yes. Section 9 of the Electronic Communications Act deals with the licensing of communication network services licenses. And what it says, I may not have it in front of me to quote it verbatim, but what it says is that to apply for a license, you need to have a minimum 30% equity ownership by historically disadvantaged persons. Now, he seeks to read this and conflate issues deliberately, firstly with the BEE Act as well as the ICT codes. he is relying on what he thinks is a loophole in the ICASA Act, which says, and that I do have, so I can read it for you verbatim, which says that to get a license, the percentage of equity ownership to be held by these historically disadvantaged groups must be not less than 30%, or such other conditions, or higher percentage as may be prescribed by the Act. Now, that or such other conditions is this loophole that I think is identified. But just an elementary understanding of statutory interpretation, which we hope the minister would have, would indicate to you that you need to read legislation in context. The legislators could not have intended that they would say not less than 30% and then say or higher percentage, and then you think that other such conditions means you can do away with that. That statement of 30% is peremptory. It means that it is mandatory and it cannot be changed by regulation. Hence, we are calling on him to follow due process if he's trying to amend the law.
And what is your view on alternative compliance mechanisms like the equity equivalent investment programs? We know that there are other international organizations that have taken advantage of that, the likes of a Microsoft. And the minister is basically saying, we've seen this happen before. Surely it can happen in this instance?
Well, EEIPs are part of our legislative landscape. They are allowed not only, in other sectors like automobile, but also in the ICT industry. Where there is a difference, for example, you mentioned Microsoft, the likes of Oracle, Amazon, and all of them who operate in the country, is that they are not providing network connectivity. And that is where the licensing requirement comes in, because once you then want to provide network connectivity, you must be licensed with its condition of 30%. This difference is important because to provide network connectivity, you need to be allocated radio frequency spectrum. Now, that is a finite resource, a strategic resource of the country, like water, like land, like minerals. And that is why we are so hell-bent on saying that transformation in that case is non-negotiable. You can't, Humutso, have foreign players in this country with absolutely no local ownership taking what are our resources and them being run elsewhere. We have no satellite capabilities that we own in South Africa. You have an opportunity through this program to ensure that you don't just tinker on the sidelines of transformation, but you drive ownership, management, and control of those resources through a local ownership. We're also concerned, which I suppose is a different discussion, but we're also concerned around, our digital sovereignty, whether it's data centers, whether it is satellite operators, because as I've indicated that none of these, are locally owned, but I do want to make a point that there's no shortage of satellite operators with exactly the same capabilities as Starlink, who have absolutely no objection to complying with our local laws, because these laws are neither unique nor sinister. Many other jurisdictions have similar ownership requirements. And you just look at Starlink. They're operating in Zambia, in India, in partnership with local companies. Why must it be different in South Africa? And I think that's what we're calling on, to say that we need to have a company that shows respect for the country's laws. And Mr. Musk, we have already seen his absolute disdain for our government and our laws. And we cannot then, allow a situation where bending the rules to accommodate just him when we have alternatives.
Yeah. We're having the conversation with Kusala Diko, chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies, really weighing in on that policy direction that's been published by the Communications Minister, Soli Malatsi, on Friday. Someone here commenting saying, I have a great concern with regard to Minister Malatsi's directive that ICASA reconsider its rules on local ownership, which is opposed, among others, by Elon Musk. His move to ease rules, hobbling Starlink to enter the South African market. The question is, what is at stake for Minister Malatsi to reissue that directive despite opposition from his own political party? I think, Kusela, the sentiment that that I'm getting from a number of listeners, but also, from the comments and the reaction I've seen at the weekend, is that this does seem to be a little sneaky on the part of the minister, that he's gone out of his way to look for this loophole, and he's using this loophole, but also some people have even questioned the timing of the issuing of the directive on a Friday night. What's your view on that?
I think as a country, we're very, very skeptical of festive season policy directives. But you see, what's particularly troubling, Khumutso, is that this process didn't start now. It started, I think, late last year, where the minister would have approached ICASA to request their opinion on his proposed policy directives as they were at that time. And ICASA came back to him and they indicated that he would not be able to change legislation through policy directives. He should rather follow the law. Now, the minister, this is not the first time we've had to call him out for really just being legally delinquent, because the correct process would have been to initiate a process to amend the law. I'm not saying that would not have been challenged itself, because we do know that the political party that has deployed him to government is very, very determined to reverse the gains that have been made in empowerment, particularly the Black economic empowerment legislation. Now, he has also not even, consulted with his cabinet colleagues. You would think that a policy change of this nature, he would at least seek to ensure that cabinet is behind him. It's not a requirement in law, but it's one of those things that we think, the cabinet also needs to inquire into. Ourselves as Parliament, we are going to await the position of ICASA on this matter. And as we do so, we continue to protect and safeguard their independence of the regulator to make an independent decision on this matter. But we'll also be calling the minister into Parliament in the new year. He did appear before us in May. The Portfolio Committee was unanimous, barring the DA, of course, on the fact that these regulations are undesirable, they're procedurally flawed, yet he continued. So we're calling for that immediate withdrawal, and we're really hoping that sanity will prevail in this case.
All right, let's take some calls. The number to dial is 011-883-0702. Paul, you're in Johannesburg, and you want to ask about how this may be limiting opportunities. Please go ahead.
Yes, good morning, and good morning to the Portfolio Committee Chair. No disrespect to your position. South Africa is in desperate need for education. What you are saying here about the minister flouting the law may very well be the case. I'm not arguing that fact. What I am arguing is ownership of a spectrum that is never going to be used if it wasn't for Starlink to come into the country. Absolutely never. The spectrum that you're asking him to pay this 31% on, that's the first question. The second question is the biggest portion of the current government's vote is a rural vote, an uneducated rural vote because of the situation of no connectivity. You're sitting there mentioning laws and sections of the policy law and this and everything else, and you're not absolutely considering that. And what that leads me to believe, and these are the two questions I'd like you to answer, is one, who is going to buy that spectrum if Musk doesn't provide equity to educate our population? And two, is that the answer you're looking for? Do you want the population, the rural population, which is going to benefit from this dramatically, to be uneducated so they can continue voting with a promise as opposed to with information? Those are the two questions I ask, and I really hope you have some answer. I know you're not the final buck stops with you, but those are pertinent questions with relation to information and information technology in this country. You're wanting to give something that is never going to be bought because it doesn't exist. And second, do you want the population to stay uneducated in terms of information that is provided from having an internet connectivity? Thanks so much. I'll listen on the radio.
Thank you so much. Kasala, please go ahead.
Thanks, Khumutso. Let me thank Paul for that question as well, the two questions. Let me start with the rural vote. Starlink is not a silver bullet, nor is it a panacea to the challenges that face us on rural connectivity. I have seen that Starlink has made a commitment, again, public pronouncements without going through due process, where they say, should they be allowed to enter the country in the manner that they want, they will connect 5,000 rural schools. Yeah. Now, that 5,000 rural schools is not impressive to us at all. That's because right now, our mobile network operators, to whom spectrum has already been allocated, they have universal service obligations which target rural schools, traditional offices, hospitals, police stations, 21,000 installations that they are meant to be doing within a 3-year period, which started last year. So I'm not sure these 5,000 schools, whether they're going to be connecting them over and above what has already been assigned to the mobile network operators, because we have assigned schools to be connected already, and that work is on the ground. We oversee it on a regular basis, going into these schools and checking connectivity. The second issue is that Starlink is not affordable to the man in the street in a rural community. Just to get the device, I don't know what it's called, the transponder, I think it's called, cost in the region, and these are comparative prices to Zimbabwe, Zambia, where Starlink has already been rolled out. That device is in excess of 5,000 Rand. Then you have your monthly payments, which sit about between 600 and 800 Rand on a monthly basis. I want to know which is this poor, poverty-stricken rural community that can afford to pay that much. Government, on the other hand, is laying out fiber. We have some of our own state-owned enterprises that are in discussions with Chinese companies, Turkish companies, and I know some of the U.S. companies like Amazon, who have the same capabilities as Starlink and who have not said that they want to undermine our laws. They're willing to work within the laws of this country. Now, it does not mean that if Starlink is not in the country, we will not have LEO capabilities, and we're going to do that in a manner that is affordable to our people. If you take the issue of spectrum, I'm not sure why Paul would think that nobody is interested and nobody is going to buy spectrum. In March of 2022, government auction spectrum raised 14 billion Rand to the fiscus just from the three mobile network operators we have. Cell C was interested. Unfortunately, they could not raise the funding in time. There's another round of spectrum allocation that is intended in the next couple of months, let's say 18 months to a year. And there's significant interest in that. But there's lots of uses of spectrum over and beyond, just ensuring that the likes of Starlink get them. So I suppose, Khumuto, that the point that I'm trying to make here is that we are not anti innovation. We are not anti-digital transformation. All we are saying is that ours is a legally governed society, and if Starlink wants to enter the country, they need to do that on the same basis as everybody else who is doing business in this country, and the rules are clear for anybody to see.
Yeah, I suppose that's the conversation, really, the compliance with our laws and why we're willing, really, to bend over backwards to allow Starlink access into the country. But thank you for that response, Minister. We're speaking to Kusela Diko. Did I say Minister? I mean Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies. That is Kusela Diko, responding to that directive that was issued by Minister Suli Malatsi on Friday. And that really essentially allows the flouting of BBBEE laws in order to allow international players like a Starlink to enter the South African market. It has been an ongoing conversation that has been driven by the Minister of Communications, Soli Malatsi. That directive being issued on Friday, and now we're seeing Parliament and organizations, political parties responding to this move that has been made by Malatsi. But also, I am seeing many of your voice notes coming through. We're going to be taking them. 072-702-1702 is the number for your voice notes, and 011-883-0702. So what happens now, Kusela, just in terms of from Parliament? Are you guys going to be taking the legal route, or does this mean, I hear you say you're going to invite him to come and account before the committee, but he's been before the committee before, hasn't he?
He has indeed. He appeared before the committee on this matter in May of 2025, where I was saying that, the committee would have raised its disapproval of the process that he wanted to take. I think the minister has played his hand. I think insofar as the law allows him, he has issued that policy directive, and the onus is now on ICASA to consider whether they are going to be complying with the directive or not. And it's important to stress once again that ICASA is an independent regulator.
Yes.
So if a policy, a policy directive is given to them that they feel is ultra vires, it's unlawful, they are well within their rights and their mandate not to implement that policy. So we'll be watching very carefully what ICASA does. We're also calling, I think, on Cabinet to also inquire into this matter. I know that the ANC study group, for example, has called for a joint meeting between Minister Malatsi and Minister Tao of Trade and Industry, who are the owners of broad-based Black economic empowerment legislation, maybe to try and find each other there. I cannot at this point say that the Portfolio Committee or Parliament will be taking the legal route on this matter, as we have not yet met, after he issued his policy directive on Friday. But I can assure you, Khumuzo, that this is an issue that we are strongly opposed to, hence our call for withdrawal, and we will be watching the developments from ICASA very closely.
All right, let's take some of your voice notes.
Khumuzo, I don't think we should break rules for the sake of breaking rules, especially for Elon Musk. This guy is being arrogant and want to push the country to a corner. So I think we should not set the wrong precedents. So the laws should always take its course. We cannot allow foreigners to dictate to our country on how we should do our business. If the rule says you need to have a local partner, be to it. So he mustn't try to bully us like Trump. So I think let's stick to our guns, and if he can't follow the rules in the country, then he must go. Thank you, Joe in Pretoria.
Thank you, Joe. I suppose that's the question. Hey, why are we so desperately trying to break the rules to accommodate Elon Musk, right? Especially if we're hearing from Parliament, but also we're hearing the general sentiment is come and operate in the space. We welcome you. We would like you to operate, but do so according to the rules of the land. That really is the view. That's the sentiment, right, Kusela?
That is the sentiment. Absolutely correct, Khumuzo. We welcome foreign direct investment. We welcome any progressive innovations that is going to move our country forward. But I want to speak on the point that the gentleman just raised, just in terms of sovereignty. I did say that, we have a responsibility as South Africans to ensure that our country develops. In Parliament, we initiated a process, the Committee on Communications initiated a process with the Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation, where we are trying to push government to really implement a long-standing resolution of theirs to develop a national sovereign satellite for communication for South Africa. If you just look at Centec, which is our signal distributor and, the buyer of many satellite services, mostly from U.S. companies, we're saying, why is it that we are not looking at building our own technologies, our own infrastructure, working together with the private sector? The likes of Vodacom, MTN, Telkom, I have personally engaged to say that as South African society, we should be coming together to ensure that we're able to do this. We can't have an over-reliance on the likes of Starlink. You've already seen what he did in Ukraine, threatening to cut off their connectivity. I don't think that is what we want in this country. You've already seen Starlink. I mean, they are deeply embedded in the military-industrial complex of the United States, the whole Pentagon contracts. They have, missile defense systems that they're going to be putting up in space. And it's important as a country to ensure that we are sovereign and we are able to drive this. And at the very least, demanding local ownership is part of trying to safeguard that space.
All right, let's leave it there. That's Kusela Diko, chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies. She's been speaking and weighing in on that policy direction that's been published by Minister Solly Malatsi, Communications Minister Solly Malatsi. And I suppose now the ball is in ICASA's court to respond to this direction, and then it will be established whether Parliament will be taking further steps. But it's a story to definitely keep your eye on.
At Dis-Chem, get ready to celebrate instant savings with better rewards. Swipe to get 20% off plus an extra 10% off lifestyle food, extra virgin olive oil 1 litre. Get 20% off plus an extra 10% off Biogen Premium ISO Whey 1.5 kilos. And get 30% off plus an extra 10% off Slow Mag Magnesium 100 capsules. Look out for the Better Rewards icon in-store and online. Offers valid until 11 January 2026. Dis-Chem, better health starts here.
You could spend 10 minutes on social media or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 45142. Like 55-year-old Andre, who now pays a mind-blowing 776 Rand a month for his 2024 Toyota Urban Cruiser. With Outsurance, you get to enjoy benefits like panic assistance that sends the nearest medical or armed response unit to you wherever you may be, 24/7 with just a tap on the app. SMS out to 45142. After switching, 55-year-old Stefan now pays only 611 Rand a month for his 2024 Suzuki Jimny. Outsurance is so confident that they can beat what you're currently paying. So why not put them to the test? If Outsurance can't beat what you're paying, ask them for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Limits apply.
At Checkers, we do more so you get extra this Christmas. With festive savings like Excella sunflower oil 2 litres, 2 for 129 Rand. And Clover cheddar or Gouda cheese 800 grams, 2 for 199 Rand. Plus, stand a chance to win your share of 7 million Rand in prizes. Simply buy any 3 qualifying products and swipe your extra savings card to enter. Valid until Sunday, only at Checkers Hyper. T&Cs apply.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulum. Gauteng police have arrested a man in connection with the murder of a school principal in Tembisa. Officers say 4 suspects broke into the victim's home in the early hours of yesterday morning. The gunman shot the man and assaulted his wife and kids before fleeing. Police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuwului says more arrests are expected.
The investigation team followed up on leads which led to the arrest of the suspect at his home. The suspect is expected to appear before Tembisa Magistrates Court on the 17th of December 2025.
The MK party in KwaZulu-Natal has officially introduced its motion of no confidence against Premier Thamsanqa Ntuli in the legislature. The party has accused Ntuli and the government of provincial unity of financial mismanagement and failure to deliver services. Ntuli was elected premier after the IFP, ANC, DA and NFP formed a coalition arrangement following last year's general elections. The MK party's Bonkosi Mgadi has this morning addressed the legislature.
I hereby move a motion of no confidence in Premier Honorable T.A. Ntuli. This is not a gesture of conscience, but of responsibility. It is not about humiliating one man, but about rescuing the entire province.
Mgadi says the province under the current administration is failing.
KwaZulu-Natal is not failing because it lacks potential. It is failing because it lacks leadership.
Saying in KwaZulu-Natal, Finance MEC Francois Rogers says he is working on a long-term plan to make the Zulu royal family financially self-sustainable and less reliant on provincial government funding. Each year, the provincial government allocates millions of rands to the monarchy. In the previous financial year, Rogers signed off an 86 million rand check to the palace. In an interview with EWN recently, Rogers says the province needs to rethink how it supports the Zulu royal family. Tabiso Koba reports.
Finance MEC Francois Rogers says one option is to emulate Botswana's meat commission model in KwaZulu-Natal. In 1965, Botswana's government established the BMC in a move to promote the country's beef and related products across the world. The BMC, which still exists today, played a significant role in Botswana's early economic development years. Rogers says the KZN government can also assist the Zulu royal family in leveraging its vast land and cattle to create something similar.
I've now found investors who are prepared to come in to form a joint venture with the royal household to look at a beef canning plant to export canned beef up into Central Africa where there's a huge demand for it. And we've done some preliminary numbers and studies on this model. The King is really interested in it.
Rogers says other strategies include the commercialization of the Zulu royal family's rich history and heritage as a tourist attraction. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
And motorists are being warned against driving under the influence this festive season. Traffic volumes are expected to increase in the next few days as people travel across the country ahead of the Christmas holidays next week. An off-duty law enforcement officer in Cape Town died yesterday after he was struck by a drunk driver while attending to another crash. The Road Traffic Management Corporation, Simon Zwane.
Most of it really it's really about the alcohol use, and it also involves pedestrians. Particularly the high number of fatalities in the Western Cape would involve a high number of pedestrians. So it's an issue that is going to be receiving close attention in the coming weeks. Also, fatigue becomes a big issue this time of the year, so we'll be looking into those issues.
And in Colombia, at least 16 high school students celebrating their graduation and their driver have been killed in a bus accident. The bus plunged into a ravine in northwest Colombia yesterday. The group of students aged between 16 and 18 were traveling from a Caribbean beach on Colombia's coast. 20 more were injured in the 40-meter plummet. Gold is trading at $4,341.74 an ounce. The rand is at 16.84 to the dollar, 22.51 to the pound, 19.76 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $61.41 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N3 South. This is between Vincent Chabalala Road and Linksfield Road. An accident is reported there, and that's the reason for that long backup, about a 20-minute hold-up. If you're heading towards areas like Houghton, please try to use the Mike 1 South instead. If you're traveling on the M2 West towards Selby, another accident reported right near Heidelberg Road. It is causing heavy traffic volumes from Reuven Road. Reuven Road in itself is backed up as a result of this scene.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 26 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Gauteng police have arrested a man in connection with the murder of a school principal in Tembisa.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Welcome to the third and final hour of the show. It's 11:07 right here on 702. My name is Komotsa Modise. I'm in for Clement Manyathela. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been together since 9 a.m. and thank you so much for your WhatsApps, your voice notes, your calls. Thank you for weighing in. We appreciate your views. Of course, if you want to catch up on the conversations that we've been having, go on to the Prime Media Plus app. You'll find them all uploaded on there. And there's been really important conversations, especially in the last hour, where we've been speaking about that policy direction that's been issued by the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, basically laying or paving the way for international players like Starlink to enter the South African market without complying with the current BEE laws. And then, of course, we had that conversation with Sunday Times investigative reporter Sabelo Skiti on a dodgy call center deal exposed at the Road Accident Fund. Important conversations that we had there. So go on to the Prime Media Plus app. You will find them uploaded there for you to listen to. All right. This is the final hour of the show, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Of course, it's a Monday, and it's Family Matters time. And today, we're having a conversation that, is rather close to my heart. This time of the year, this is the festive season. Everyone is going home. Everyone can't wait to see their family. Bo Abele, our technical producer here, driving home to see Bo Ma, as many do. And unfortunately, there are people that don't have a home to go back to. After the year that we've had, where there's been loss, where we've experienced challenges, where we have been, going through turbulent relationships with our friends and family members. The truth is, not all of us are going to be having a blissful and joyous festive season with our family and friends. Some of us are going to have to get through this season all by ourselves. And the truth really is that it can get very, very lonely and very, very dark. So for that conversation, we're speaking to social workers and psychosocial well-being and employee wellness practitioner, Kifile Mojapelo, who is going to be helping us make sense of how to get through this time of the year. I do know, and I've been seeing all over social media videos of people already dreading the drive home. People already saying, I'm not looking forward to seeing that aunt. And for some people, it's I'm not looking forward to walking into an empty home. Someone said there are spider webs, cobwebs all over the room, and I need to do the cleaning, and my heart breaks as I think of my mother, as I think of my father and the people that used to live in this house and how happy we used to be. And now all of that is gone. But also, that's not the only type of loss you may have experienced this year. There may have been the loss of a spouse in the form of a divorce, or the loss of a child. You may have been living with your child, and that child is now gone. How do you navigate your first festive season after change or loss? Kifile Mojapelo joins us now on the line. Thank you so much for your time, Kifile. Good morning.
Morning, Komoto, and thank you so much for having me.
It's an important conversation that we're having here today, right? But it's a difficult one also, because the reality is that loss is real. It's real. We experience it. And sometimes we don't think about it, and we manage to push these thoughts and, we push it to the back of our minds until a time like the festive season comes up where you must confront it.
Indeed, Komoto, and maybe it may darken the mood a little for other people because now we empty or how they're gonna feel, but it's a reality, you know what I mean? It's a reality of where we are right now, but it's beautiful that we're having this conversation so that then we can find mechanisms to deal with this loneliness.
Yes. I mean, the festive season is associated with joy, togetherness. Everyone is thinking, I'm going to see that person. But I mean, I think that also comes with intensifying grief, and emotional pain for people that have had to go through that throughout the year, doesn't it?
Indeed, Komoto. So that's the sad part because somebody else is anticipating to go see Bobo, Mabo, Rakati, or whoever. And friends as well, when you catch up and you see that friend that you haven't seen in high school, we love going home for that. But unfortunately for all of us, it's a different experience coming this year with many other reasons because it's either lost people or home is not home the same anymore as it was last year because maybe mom is no longer here. I know already at my mind, at the background of that for many of my clients who lost their loved one this year. Divorce, the Christmas is no longer the same because my partner is not around with the kids. So it's there are many different reasons why Christmas or this festival never be the same for all of us. But you know what? Luckily we are here. We can find coping mechanisms so that we can go about it functional in a better way than we would have had.
Yes. And how do your clients usually approach this time of the year? I know that some people, they dread it, but of course it will come. It's here right now. And some people overthink the entire year. They overthink about, what am I going to do when this time comes? How am I going to approach it? How do some of your clients deal with this time?
Thank you so much for that question, Khomoto. So just a bit intro on myself. Kifile Mojapelo, her purpose is to nurture relationships, build functional families, and promote psychosocial well-being as well as restoration. So that's mostly where I go about with my clients. Whatever we do is to say, for example, if a person is used to spending Christmas in a certain way or this festive with their family members and it's all busy, some would resort to drinking alcohol. because I just want to numb the feelings. I want to numb the pain. I don't want to be in my thoughts because my thoughts are so loud and they're so unpleasant. So that's the whole point of saying, you know what, don't avoid ignoring those or pushing it and avoiding it and escaping it in dysfunctional patterns or in behaviors that might not be functional or helping you or aiding the circumstances at the end of the day. So the point is that that's where we're going to crap it at to say, can we open ourselves up to our emotions? Can I deal with this thing that I don't want to deal with? Sometimes, the mind is so clever, it just wants to sweep it under the carpet. Or it's so real and so painful that I would rather not go there. I know personally that sometimes spaces where I don't want to confront my own feelings, but I've learned to really confront them, sit with them. Even if my mind is playing tricks at me, I've learned to step in that and be in that and allow myself to feel it, process it so that I can get some strength from that experience instead of avoiding it and finding other dysfunctional ways to dealing with it.
And is there a reason why these feelings surface, particularly at this time of the year? I mean, is it just the fact that you're seeing other people on social media? You're seeing other people, what you'll often see, in the township where I'm from, there'll be cars, many cars parked outside houses on a Christmas day, Christmas Eve, the 26th. Around this time of the year, which families are the hosts and popular hosts in their families, because there's so many cars parked outside. But is there a reason why these feelings come up, particularly at this time of the year?
Definitely, also, and of course, what you just explained are those triggers that come along and remind us to say, hey, this is the reality, you're alone, or the situation has changed. Now the triggers is so real that I can't avoid it anymore. However, maybe at the background of those triggers, it's the actual situation to say, number one, it could be hyped up a lot. It could be given this hype to say, be merry, be joyous, spend, drink, do this, do that, be with friends. So from a societal perspective, we are already, there's a prescribed manual already on how to spend Christmas. And that's one I want to tap into to say, now, if you find yourself in a situation.
All right, I think we've lost Kefilwe there. That line wasn't too good. We're going to try to get her back on a better line. But yes, we're speaking about navigating your first festive season after change or loss. And I'm inviting you to give us a call. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. We're taking your calls on there. How are you, navigating this time of the year? Have you gone home yet? Is there a home for you to go back to? Are you dreading that drive? As I said, I saw a video a little earlier where someone had said, the fact that they just have to drive for them, it's so heavy on them, thinking that they're going to an empty house, an empty home. There's no one there anymore. But someone else also was saying that that's caused some conflict between her and her family or her sister, because she doesn't want to go home because there's no home to go back to as far as she's concerned. But the sister has had developments in her life. The sister now has a new car and they want to take it home, and they wanted, as some people will say, right? And for the sister, it's important that this car goes home, even if it means going to the gravesite where the parents were buried. But the one sister just can't bear to be in that house. And as we just heard Kefilwe say, the one sister actually says that she's considered drinking so much that when she goes home to an empty house, she doesn't see any of it, she doesn't feel it, she doesn't process any of it, because she just knows the feeling that's just about to come over her. That's the reality of navigating your first festive season after loss or change in your life. But yeah, I'm taking your calls and I'm taking your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, I think we have Kefilwe back on the line. Kefilwe, I hope that you can hear me.
I can hear you, Khomoto. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for that. You were just speaking about, the reason why the feelings surface at this time of the year, right? And how, right now it's all in your face. There's the triggers, and you see all the people around you. Social media, I think during this time of the year can either make or break you. If you're away from your family and your loved ones, it's so hard being on social media, seeing everyone experience their joy.
Indeed, and the important aspect of socialization, how we are socialized or how society views Christmas and this time and all these festive seasons to be married, to be together, to be this. But I want to challenge all of us to say, can we have our own subjective experiences to say, personalize it? It's not always about going where the crowd goes, and sometimes it's a fallacy because we think we're going to be made and experience whatever. Meanwhile, all of us has been through something the whole year. So it's about time that we reflect and maybe connect deeper with ourselves. This is time to rejuvenate and reflect. But I guess somebody would say, I feel I've been reflecting the whole year. But it's important to do that so that we continue to be connected to ourselves, so that everything that we do is meaningful. Because I can give an example, so to say, many of us at the family gatherings, this was the 26th year. I know I'm going to happen to be going to my own gathering. So most of the time, you go there and you anticipate a merry, a joyous, a family, and a nice whatever. But some people feel they want to do away with this kind of this kid family gatherings.
Yeah.
I forgot the perfect name, but so not say those things. Sometimes they tell us more, and there's a lot that is being said that is undesirable, and you go out of that meeting depleted because you had Auntie Ari. You see, Mama is driving a Porsche or this one. When because of all this. Exactly. So it's about time we become conscious about how we want to spend it, and we conscientize ourselves, and it becomes a deliberate and intentional marrying of this festive season, so that if I'm going to be married, I'm going to be married my own way. I don't have to go with the societal expectations of going where everybody goes, and sometimes I don't want that. So it's about time that we really think of what this really means for us and how we want to spend it, particularly if you are anticipating to be alone because of family conflicts or whatever. We can still have that beautiful festive on your own, or finding meaningful connections other way without necessarily being at home when you're not going to be home.
How can one prepare themselves, just before they go home, particularly instances of loss, or even as if you had a divorce and Christmas is just not the same. Now there's the co-parenting. Now it's the fights and the conflicts around where do the children go? Are they coming with me for Christmas? Are they going with you for Christmas? I don't want to spend my Christmas with you because right now things aren't okay. How can we just manage those feelings? Because that is a form of loss. You've lost the relationship. You've lost a loved one, yes, albeit not to death, but they're gone now. And now you need to start reimagining your life without them and reimagining this time of the year without them.
Indeed, Komoso, and I feel so sad for those people. But nonetheless, can we learn to really be proactive instead of being reactive? And I normally go about the 3 key ways that I love: being conscious, being deliberate, and being intentional. So consciousness already says be mindful, mind your mind, check where your mind is at. So the very same thoughts that we wish away and we want to go away from and run away from, and because this time is the perfect reminder or the saddest reminder where I should be with my loved one doing this, it's still okay. Take a deep breath, be mindful of how you're going to spend it, check what your mind is minding, and go into those thoughts, unpack them, hear what is coming, and whatever that you are sensing, at the end of the day, find I can say functional ways to dealing with that. If you are anticipating that I'm going to be alone, then plan to say, okay, this is the reality right now. Go into your reality, be conscious of your situation. My reality is this, and this is where I am. It's a festive season. What am I going to do with myself? Sad as it is, go into that space. While you're in that space, stay there. While you're staying there, find ways. I normally say, let's do something that feels like it's hugging our souls. In that place, then find those self-care strategies that you can now spend your Christmas from that point of view, harnessing all these things that feels like they are hugging your soul. And definitely, if you feel too lonely, I'm also here. I'm just a phone call away. So that is very important. And telehealth interventions, just call us and we can guide you. I can help you through the process, and I facilitate on how you can harness these emotions, because sometimes they're so too much and they are so depleting that you don't want to be there on your own, or you may not have the capacity to get out. That's why most of us avoid those sad moments, because you don't know how to get out of those things.
Sure. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702 if you'd rather send us a WhatsApp. That's where we're taking your calls and your WhatsApps. And I just want to hear from you. Are you dreading this festive season? Are you dreading going home? Is there a home for you to go back to? Or even if there is, do you feel like you can't go there for whatever reason? And are you struggling with, the thoughts of, do I go, do I not? What happens when I'm there? I think for many people that have experienced loss, particularly loss of parents and of loved ones, and, home is just not the same, is that, they go home and they can feel that it's not the same anymore, that things are different, and they struggle to process those emotions. They struggle to process those feelings because they know what it should feel like. I think that's really the worst part, It's the it used to be so happy here. I used to be so happy in here, and now it's just memories. Really, that's all I have left.
Indeed. And we can still be in that, especially as family members. Sometimes you don't have to avoid, but we can share that together, because the loneliness or the lack of that pleasant normal circumstances is so loud that you can't avoid it. And most of the people, I find them wanting to avoid and crying in their corners. So sometimes I've learned within my family to say, when we miss Daddy, knowing very well this time you'll be doing this and that, and I would rather again create that certain set up where we talk about him, and then after that we dance and we let down from everything. You don't just let down from the good point of singing Bobulindlela and be happy and merry, but we can let down from where we are and be like, guys, oh, Papa Nkebalimo, this could have been like this. While Mom is emotional and crying, then we have a group hug. From there we're like, okay, let's now wrap this session up with this music. This is his favorite song. We can do that.
Not Kifilwe, apologies. Some of the reality that loss brings really sometimes is that, it threatens the relationships that you already have. How you process loss can threaten those relationships that are already around you. I spoke earlier about the lady who didn't want to go home, but the sister wanted to go home. And now they are not talking. Their relationship is impaired, Their relationship is now strained because I want to go home. I want to go experience this. Yes, there's no one at home. Yes, Ma is gone and the gates are locked, but I just want to be in that space. And you don't want to be there with me, and you don't want to support me through this.
Indeed, Komoto. And I think, I don't know, most of the people feel like bereavement therapy is not for them. So I would definitely say bereavement therapy for your own and for the family. I want to advocate for that. More than anything, we all have our own ways of dealing with things. Sometimes it's not nice. I feel like my sister is not here. I want to, and she doesn't want, because it's a harsh reminder and she's not ready to go into that space. Maybe we need to, it's about time that we understand, even if you don't like it, it's not nice, because if my sister is not there and she wants to spend whatever in her own way and deal with the emotions the own way, it's sad, but I guess we have to understand, because we all deal with loss differently.
Yeah. Well, let's take some of your voice notes that have been coming in. All right. We're just going to see if the voice note is ready. I think it is ready. Abele?
As a team. For December festive, actually, it's not like the same. More we're excited to go home and see our parents, go home, see our siblings. It's no longer that anymore. So remember that time, there is a the rice, mayonnaise, tomato sauce. They were scarce, very excited. No baker. Nowadays, anytime you can go home. Anytime you can go home if we have a home. Anytime you can eat rice. Anytime. Doesn't have any time for the rice. Anytime. Even today's Monday, you can just cook 7 colors. There's no need time. So I say never have a home. Now it's a December time. I have to go to travel with that. Doesn't have anymore.
Thank you so much for that voice note. And thank you for that. Yeah, I suppose, it does become different over time, especially when you have access to those things. Amakeke with Christmas are no longer amakeke with Christmas. We have them the whole year round, right? That's what it's become. But yes, we are having a conversation with our social worker and psychosocial well-being and employee wellness practitioner, Kifula Mojapelo, on navigating your first festive season after change or loss. And after the news headlines, we're going to be speaking about ways to find healing. Some of you might be looking for, those steps that you can take towards your healing process. You have been grieving. How do you, tap into that? And how do you make this festive season a little better, for yourself, even though you may be experiencing grief during this time? So we're having that conversation with Kifula Mojapelo. I am taking your calls on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. All right, Mbali Dlamini is standing by with your EWN headlines. Good morning.
Thanks, Khomotso. A very good morning. The presidency is sticking to its decision to only make the final report of the Mazanga Commission of Inquiry public. Presidency Spokesperson Vincent Magwenya reiterated this stance during a media briefing this morning. The inquiry, which was established to investigate corruption within the criminal justice system, is expected to submit an interim report to the president on Wednesday. Gauteng police have arrested a man in connection with the murder of a school principal in Tembisa, Ekurhuleni. Officers say 4 suspects broke into the victim's home in the early hours of yesterday morning. The gunman shot the man and assaulted his wife and children before fleeing. While in KZN, the MK party says service delivery is worse under the government of provincial unity. The party is currently debating its motion against Premier Thamsanqa Ntuli in the legislature. The party has accused Ntuli and his government of financial mismanagement. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Travelling in a village, Maine, we still have got that accident on the M2 West that happened near Hardenberg Road, causing heavy delays from Reuven Road. There's also queuing traffic in Amalgam along Main Reef Road between the Crownwood Road exit and the M2. The M2 West in itself is heavily backed up between the Crown turn off and Main Reef Road, and traffic is also backed up along Crownwood Road between Main Reef Road and Albertina Sisulu Road. So travelling within the Mayfair Amalgam areas, do expect heavy traffic volumes, while in Shawela, we've got delays on the N12 west towards the Golden Highway. Please be on the lookout there. Rather, Abu Bakr Drive, please be on the lookout. And there's also queuing traffic on the N12 as well as the R24 west between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange. Otherwise, that's your last traffic update from me. I'm Ramila Karabujali. Will have your next report from the top of the hour onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
At Checkers, we do more so you get extra this Christmas with festive savings like Dairy Made Country Fresh Ice Cream, 1.8 litres for $54.99, and Parmalat Cheddar or Gouda Cheese, 850 grams for $109.99. Plus, stand a chance to win your share of 7 million rand in prizes. Simply buy any 3 qualifying products and swipe your extra savings card to enter. Valid until Sunday at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060. T&Cs apply.
You could spend 10 minutes on social media Or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For his 2024 GWMP series, 54-year-old Amos now pays only 1,004 Rand a month. And for his 2024 Toyota Urban Cruiser, 55-year-old Andre pays just 776 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Welcome back. It is 11:33 right here on the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Khomotso Modise. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your WhatsApp voice notes as well as your calls. We're taking more of your calls this hour. This is the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show, and it's the Family Matters feature that we're having now. And we're speaking about navigating your first festive season after change or loss, because the reality is, throughout the year, many of us have experienced loss, either in the form of death, or if you've lost a friendship, you've lost a family member, you've drifted. That is a form of loss, and you're no longer, in touch. You no longer, you don't have the relationship that you did, and I think that may cause, your festive season to seem a little different at this time of the year. So we're speaking about how do you navigate that, and how are what can you do in order to find healing so that you are not triggered during this time, because there are those triggers at this time of the year. Oftentimes you might be in spaces where people are speaking about their family members. Social media is a big trigger where everyone is having big Christmas lunches, and it's their families are all gathered around them, and they have loved ones to enjoy this time of the year with. If you may have been experiencing a divorce, it may be that your partner is no longer there, but other people are happy with their partners, and you can see that either on social media or, in and around your communities. There's always that one home, I always say. There's always that one home sometimes in the township where they are the main hosts every Christmas. There's cars outside their home. They are always packed. Everyone is eager and keen to go to that house. And if you are experiencing a festive season that's filled with grief or loss, that might be difficult for you to see. Seeing other people have a good time, seeing other people enjoy with their family members. And that's what we're speaking about in this hour. Please get in touch with us on 011-883-0702, 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. My guest on this hour is Gifule Mojapelo, who is a social worker and a psychosocial well-being and employee wellness practitioner, helping us make sense of this all. Gifule, the healing process. So now you've identified that I've gone through grief, and this is causing me to struggle in enjoying the festive season, in enjoying myself. I am miserable, and I recognize the feelings that I'm experiencing. And I know now that I need to heal so that I can experience the festive season in a better way. What do I do?
Now we are going to be focusing on the coping mechanisms then, which are functional ways of harnessing whatever or directing your feelings and emotions at that point in time. So there was this beautiful study that was done in Swedish with Swedish adults, I think 950 of them, and it was mindfulness as a way to combat loneliness.
Yeah.
To say, how can I use this approach of mindfulness, and what is that? Let me just softly explain it. To say, it's a it's a purposeful action of focusing your attention on the current moment or feelings or sensations, whatever physical, emotional, or socially, whatever that you're experiencing, that now you are focusing your attention on it, applying your mind on it, and be mindful of it, being heightened awareness of it. That's what we call mindfulness. So how do we now, let me now explain how to engage on that, to fully be in your thoughts and then process everything. So with mindfulness, that's when I'm challenging the listeners to sit through, to open up their hearts to themselves, to open up their minds to themselves. There's what we call cognitive behavioral therapy. And with that, I love using metacognition, meaning you are now minding your mind, literally thinking about your thoughts. With metacognition, then I'm advising you, or not even advising, I suggest that you apply, when you take the roof and you look through the house to see what is happening.
Yeah.
Literally, that is that when you are looking through your thoughts and looking at whatever, if it's an activating event, Now it's festive. It's already activated to say there's a social pressure, societal pressure, financial pressure, psychological pressure to be merry and forget about all your problems and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, sit through, process how you are feeling and how you are. Of course, your mind is already suggesting to you you're going to be lonely, given your circumstances or the background of this topic. Now, sit through, mind your mind, think what your thoughts are saying to you, listen to that, how that is affecting your emotions, and then how that is now affecting also how you're going to act or how you act, either through like deficit in energy, low levels of energy. I don't want to show up. I'll see it in my action. Before my action, go back to what you're feeling. Before you're feeling, go back to your thoughts. That's the whole process of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
Looking at how you got to the activating event, the mind, the thoughts, what they are producing, whether irrational or rational. You have to be compassionate and be non-judgmental when you go through that process. Then you can unpack your feelings. Then you can unpack your actions to say, where am I feeling like the way I am now? Where am I acting like this? That whole process is being mindful.
It's important to be aware, I suppose, then of those feelings, because sometimes you don't even know, right? You don't know that you're feeling
100%.
or what's contributing to you being down,
Yes.
or even negative. Like negative around this time of the year. Some people may go to the extent of saying of muting all these things on their social media, or when people want to speak about their families, their mood changes because while they are reacting to this, they are not mindful. They are not aware that they feel this way.
Exactly, Homo. So that's the whole point of my work, to say, can I push people can I advocate for consciousness, more heightened level of awareness on whatever that we do, on our engagements, the way you do things, because like it or not, the mind is the engine and it will affect how you feel. The way you minding whatever, it will lead to a certain feeling. From a certain feeling, it will lead to a certain action or the lack thereof. So either opposite or on the negative, that's how the process goes. So the better, it's better when you are mindful, because then you can be deliberate about it. Whenever you feel something, you can kind of like direct it and take control of the situation to say, I want it to go this way. And that's the whole point with my work and my services to on that.
All right, let's take some of your voice notes.
Hi, Homoto and your 702 listeners. I'd like to remain anonymous for this one. So for us, last year on the 21st of December, I lost my sister-in-law to a car accident. And obviously, you can imagine 4 days before Christmas, this really shattered all of our Christmas plans because we had to attend to a funeral during that week. So it really has been difficult even this year, just going towards Christmas. The thought of now that she's not there, because she was one of those people that we really valued in the family. And so even now, as usually by this time of the year, we already have Christmas plans, where we're going, what's going to happen and everything like that. But as I'm speaking now, no one has said anything with regards to plans for Christmas, where we're spending it, what we are doing, what the kids are going to do, theme and things like that. Nothing, because I think, there's just this gray cloud hanging about what happened last year around this time. So it really is a difficult time. And if anyone else is going through the same, I sympathize with them. And it's just really a difficult time.
Sure. Strength to you, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. Kifilo, it's a reality that many families have, right? Because, I've heard, even in my own family, where people will then say, let's not celebrate Christmas anymore because of what happens during this time of the year in our family. People even go to the extent of owning it and saying, in our family, Christmas is never a good time.
And already, I don't think we understand the power of declaring that, and how your emotions, because there's already a mental note that is made, how the body and your emotions will accompany that and follow the very same thought, command and declarations that you've made. So nonetheless, we need to restructure now all this. And it also needs to be a conscious process to say, now that we realize more, Sister Mamang was the one who was supposed to organize. What are we saying, guys? We are quiet. I know it said somebody needs to break the ice at some point. Somebody needs to break the ice. So we need to acknowledge the loss instead of wish it away. And we think our way of when you think about it, you don't want to affect another person. You think you'll remind them. Guess what? They're already thinking about it. So talking about it probably is the better way instead of avoiding it.
And I mean, how important is it then to be there for each other during this time? And what does that look like? You know, sometimes, as you rightly say, sometimes we feel like, hey, let me not speak to this person about it because maybe they're dealing with their demons, so to speak. And I don't want to be that person to touch the wound. And maybe I should just let them be, and I'll also deal with it in my corner. It's very easy to do that because you think you're taking care of the next person's feelings by not touching it.
And it's said, Khomozo, you're so right. And I think in my circle, I'm that one who breaks that difficult topic. So unfortunately, and I cannot say everybody does it because some of us, you don't have the capacity to then wrap it up or summarize it. You can't open a can of worms and not know what to do with them. So and it's sad because every time a person comes to me, they will say, nobody's calling me. Because of the very same thing to say, let these people deal with them in their own way. By doing that, somebody's feeling neglected. Somebody is saying, I'm going to cut everyone. Because at that time when I needed them, nobody was brave enough to come to me. And I'm telling you my reality. That's what people say in my room. So we have to reach out to one another. Let's go to that person, take that period, sit with them to say, friend, I've brought this drink. Let's sit through this. And that for me, it also goes back to what I say, relational intelligence, having the skill to know what to say at the right time and what to do what you want to do instead of avoid doing what you want to do and doing the default factory of the opposite, which is quiet.
Yeah.
I'm expecting if you're my friend, you must call me. Friend, I know your father. Sometimes you don't have to say it, but suggest it and hear. From that conversation, one thing will lead to another, and then we unpack, and now we're becoming real. And realness for me, I think I thrive on realness instead of we are quiet, we are not saying what we should say, we are avoiding whatever that's in our thoughts. Why can't we just open it up, and I get to deal with the reality and it's raw, instead of with the illusion of reality and you don't want to talk about it. We are all quiet but bleeding inside. I think that was the worst for me. Then we go home after December, nobody said anything. And the more we don't meet in this kind of this situation, if the voice noter who just noted now to say, my sister-in-law used to do this. Imagine if you're not going to talk about it and meet and not say anything. Guess what? It's going to be a norm. Now we no longer meet. Now it's 3 years later. We haven't said anything. So I wouldn't want that. So I would advocate that we know how to tap into the spaces. I would also advocate that we capacitate ourselves with the skills that we should so that we can learn how to talk to people, how to do this, which is what I call relational intelligence.
But I suppose also the other end of the spectrum, when I give you is that sometimes you'll want to be so happy to create this pseudo joy, so seem like you are so happy to cover the pain, right? So you're Kifile, let's say you like to deal with things head on, or when you want to be no man, let's celebrate this, but you haven't necessarily dealt with the heart of the issue. You just want things to go back to normal, but the truth is they will not be.
That's sad, Khomozo, and guess what? We either deal with it earlier than later. Let's take a situation where how many people have you seen them crying? I'm happy. Because I pretended. The next thing I'm crying. My head is down. I'm telling another. I broke down. So I would rather break down in a controlled atmosphere than in an uncontrolled one, because I would not know how to deal with my feelings and my emotions and myself. That's why it ends up now giving rise or birthing more problems and dysfunctional patterns of dealing with things. I don't mind if it's a functional way. If somebody says, I don't talk, but I do this, then let's replace that with a functional way. If it's dysfunctional, I'm worried because then I'll be drinking, I'll be doing this, avoiding it. And that's why we are having this topic, so that we find functional ways to dealing with things instead of not dealing with them, escaping, avoiding in a dysfunctional way. And then the next thing, we did so many mistakes that can't even undo.
Let's take a voice note.
Good afternoon. To honor those people, especially if a tragedy happens in such a time during Christmas, you need to honor those people. Just celebrate it, because they wouldn't like you to moan them and think of the bad things that has happened because of them. They want you to enjoy and celebrate Christmas. So honor them, remember them, laugh about them, bring out things that they were doing, have a video that you look at of their pictures hanging there, or when they were celebrating, have a good time cooking and all those things, and celebrate them. That will be a nice Christmas for them, and in honor of their name as well. Cindy.
Ah, thank you so much for that, Cindy. Yeah, that's beautiful. And also this is something that you can only do together. Like you need other people to do this. The stronger ones like you, Cindy, who can honor, who can sing, who can be, joyful, need to support the weaker Khomozo who maybe is struggling and doesn't know how to process these emotions.
Oh, beautiful said Khomozo, indeed. And I was going to ask him to say, what does he mean by celebrating? But I guess he pointed out beautifully the practical steps to doing that, not forgetting, but playing that video. And I love the variety, because what you just said, Khomozo, there'll always be that person, there'll always be a Kifilo Khomozo, whoever that our attitude and the way our characters are, we will manage to go through that process, because there's a loud one, there's this one, there's a funny one, and then it comes beautifully when we are together. And that's also what festive is about.
Sure. All right, we're taking more of your voice notes and your calls, 011-883-0702. Please give us a call. And we're taking your voice notes on 072-702-1702.
Hi, Khomozo, it's Ntsiki. So for me, Christmas, I really don't celebrate it anymore. My nephew that I was staying with committed suicide on Christmas Day in 2022 while we were at home. And really since then, I have never been home. I still feel that I'm not ready to go back home. So yeah, I've been spending Christmas all by myself. I take it as a retreat time for me, just to spend that time with God. Yeah, so that's what it's happening to me.
Ntiki, thank you so much for your voice note. And it's, you see, it's the people that carry this. So they say, oh, this happened on this day, on Christmas in this year. And now the entire season, the entire time has just been tainted for them. They can't find joy during this time because of something that happened 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago.
Indeed, Khomozo, and I don't know, I want to challenge Nsiki and say, I love the way that she's retreating though, but how is her retreating now affecting her relationships at home, her sistering somebody, him being a daughter to somebody? So in all of that, it could be, of course, a deliberate action to say, I will retreat. And with that, I will also maybe align it with what people say, to say time heals. And I beg to differ, because I feel like it is not only time that heals, but it is what we do within the time that also aids the healing, such as therapy, such as doing this, retreating, and also be mindful of the fact that we are wired for connection as human beings. As much as you are alone, you are wired for connection. That's how we are made. So at some point, I'm very well, I'm going to spend time alone and retreat, spend time with God. How is that affecting my relationship? Or when am I going to make time again for those relationships, so that I go home, I don't forget to do this and that, because we live on borrowed time. I don't want to isolate to a point where by the time I'm ready to go back home, the other sister has passed away. So just as a tread carefully kind of a caution.
And there are people there at home that are longing to experience you, Nsiki. They want to see you, they have memories of you being more joyful during this time of the year. They want to be with you. So I hope that when you are ready, once you are ready, you can step out again and start enjoying this time of the year again. Kifilo, how important is it to, for people that say, I don't go home anymore, like Ntiki, and some people saying there's nothing to go home to, the house is empty, the gates are locked. You literally see on social media people opening the gates to their home and saying this padlock has been locked for so long, and today I'm finally going to open it. How important is it to take those steps? Or can healing mean, you know what, I'm not necessarily going to the house, but I'm doing the work at home? I would imagine that going home, even to a home that doesn't have what symbolized home for you in the first place, may help soothe you and help you make that step, towards confronting your emotions. Do I actually need to go home and open that padlock? Do I actually need to go home to clean the spider webs? Do I have to sleep in the house to deal with this?
It's the reality, Khomozo, ke gore home whole subjective experiences for all of us. For some, home is so bad that I'm triggered too much. And then home, it's always the reminder that my mom loves my sister more than me because she does things this way. So it's a sad reality for all of us. And all of us, I would not advocate that you go home if you're going to come back broken and even worse than you left. So it's about that subjective experience. When you go home, what are you going to do? Even if sometimes you feel like, okay, I want to go home, even if I miss the conflict that we're having with my mom or my sister or whoever is at home, be intentional. Guard your heart, guard your peace, guard your feelings. That's where, again, I push relational intelligence to say, guard yourself while you are protecting your peace, but dealing with these people this way, then you are now managing access emotionally and emotionally regulating to say, to what degree do I give myself up? To what degree do I contain? So that whole point, it's important so that you reflect on, why am I going home? Everybody's going home. Do I need to go home? Maybe not. I don't need to go to home because of 1, 2, 3. So it's a different thing for all of us, unfortunately, because I know just last week I was speaking to a client who said, I'm not going to go home because I'm tired, I'm broken, I've been going home, and it's a harsh reminder of 1, 2, 3. So I would not say go home. I wouldn't say go home. But heal first, let's do the work, and then you can go home after me and you have done the cognitive work, have done the emotional regulation part and all of that.
And I suppose also there's that the question of the balance between, the older memories or traditions that you had, particularly from those experiencing loss, be it from death or divorce. There might be traditions that were beautiful that you used to enjoy with your loved one. And now it's either, do I do that or do I create newer traditions, for myself to be able to cope, as a sign of new beginnings. Sometimes you feel like if I abandon the fact that my mother used to wake up at 5 o'clock every day on Christmas, she might not be so happy with me. I want to make sure that I keep that tradition, but also I want to create my own to make myself happy.
It's about meaningfulness at the end of the day. And it's an inherent need to say, while we go through life, it's all about creating meaningfulness or finding meaning in what we do. So you can form new relationships while you are here. You can volunteer somewhere else, cook, do something, give. As long as you draw meaning and fulfillment from that, that's what I would advocate.
I really appreciate this conversation. I suppose maybe what's left, Kifilwe, is how can people remind themselves to be more compassionate to themselves and kind to themselves, but also compassionate and kind to those around them. Because the reality and the truth, I can tell you, is that the people that are experiencing what we've spoken about are all around us. They are in our circles, they are our friends, they are our colleagues, and sometimes we miss the signs.
Indeed, Khomotso, and they must not forget that the help is also just a phone call away. Telehealth is very important. You can just call at the comfort zone of your own home, and we are there to assist you and have that compassionate inquiry to your feelings, your emotions, and your reality as is. And then you just open it up, and after that, you can find functional ways to moving forward. And it can still be a Merry Christmas for you in your own way with new traditions and new rituals. How about that?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kifilwe. Thank you for your insights. Thank you so much for your advice. We appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you so much, Khomotso, and to the listeners as well.
All right, that was Kifilwe Mojapelo, social worker and psychosocial well-being and employee wellness practitioner. She's helping us make sense, of navigating your first festive season after change or loss. And I know many of you might be experiencing this right now, trying to figure out how to navigate this time of the year, even though it's a difficult one. You may have lost a loved one through death, through divorce, or you may just be dreading going home. I wish you so much light, and I hope that you'll be able to find peace during this time of the year and joy, even as others are experiencing this time with their families and friends.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
You're finally taking your long-awaited break.
You're going to see your family.
And you're saying goodbye for now
to your 9 to 5.
But you don't have to say goodbye to your favorite talk station.
Talk station.
This festive season, 702 will keep playing your favorite songs,
having engaging conversations,
and keeping you entertained. So make sure to sit back,
relax,
and walk the talk with us this festive season.
Download the Prime Media Plus app to make sure you don't miss a single conversation.
Happy holidays
from 702.
End the year on a high with instant payment. How, you ask? Sell it to We Buy Cars. Simply complete the form on webuycars.co.za and there you have it. A great offer within minutes. Ready to take it further. Sealing the deal with your dream ride. Explore over 12,000 vehicles on webuycars.co.za. Easy, right? With We Buy Cars, it always is.
Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for general practitioners, dentists, surgeons, and other medical specialists. Kuveni.
It's so nice to know the business risk is taken care of by Business Outsurance. The call center was just a dream to deal with. Very seamless, easy experience, and it just feels like the people we're talking to on the other line understand our needs.
Switch to Business Outsurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Cell C is now proudly listed on the JSE. You can say we put the C in JSE, the pinnacle of a 24-year game-changing history, giving South Africans affordable, reliable connectivity. We've adapted and perfected the ABCs, now ranked #1 in SA for video experience on 4G and joint #1 for network reliability.
Really?
C. Now nothing should stop you from being a part of the C. Speak to your broker. Cell C.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
The multi-talented Mandy Wiener, award-winning super journal. She joins us now in studio. Good morning.
Oh, very nice introduction. I'll take it. Thank you.
Hi, what's on your show?
A vote of no confidence, that debate currently underway in the legislature in KwaZulu-Natal. That's what it's called. The KZN Premier, very close to call that. So we'll keep an eye on it. The Minister of Communications will speak to us about the ICASA directive, which opens the door for Starlink. The shortcomings of South Africa's missions abroad are detailed in a new report. We'll look at the tragedy in response to the Bondi terrorist attack, where the South Africans were affected. And we'll wrap up the weekend sport.
All right, that's the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. It is 12 o'clock. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your voice notes, your calls, your comments. Thank you so, so much for being part of the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Khomozo Modise. I've been in for Clem today. For now, though, it's goodbye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The presidency is sticking to its decision to only make the final report of the Mazanga Commission of Inquiry public. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya reiterated the stance during a media briefing this morning. The inquiry, which was established to investigate corruption within the criminal